Can you hear the rain? It's lovely. It's a nice evening. I finished watching twice through Rebel Moon Director's Cut 1 and 2. We remember the old theatrical release from Netflix. We had 2023 Part 1, and a while later, at the start of this year, 2024 Part 2 is released. And now, 2nd of August, the Director's Cut, the Snyder Cut of both those films were released. There's a games night going on in the house. Well, I've watched the previous theatrical ones, yes, and the Snyder Cut, and I must say, they should have just released the Snyder Cut. That's it. That's really the rundown of it. Just release the Snyder Cut if this happens again. But let's go for a more rundown of what I saw with this Rebel Moon 1 and 2 Director's Cut. Did I mention there were going to be spoilers? Yeah, there's going to be spoilers, so you have been warned. Proceed with caution. Let's start with Rebel Moon number 1. The intro, wow, much more captivating. It's like it came in with a punch to your face. It was violent, it hooked you in, it let you know who the bad guys are, and more of a backstory to Aerys's character as well. It really reminded me of the pilot episode of Game of Thrones, how that hooked you and you went, I want more. That's what I got much more out of this director's cut than the previous theatrical release. It was wonderful. Along with this first one that was released, we get more exposure to Belisarius, to the point where I didn't realize he had an Irish accent. We had the previous films and he was just there, he was a looming figure, but I didn't really hear him much talk. Now I go, do I hear an Irish accent? And yes, I went, oh, we get to hear his accent, great. Another thing that I think took me by surprise was General Noble and his relaxation, recharge scene. You know what I'm talking about. I found that more uncomfortable to watch than the sex scene in this movie. Because we established that, yes, the General Noble, he's horrible. He's desensitized. Is he even human anymore from the cruelty he's showing? But we're showing another level to where if he wants to be intimate or wants to relax, he doesn't even use another person or a humanoid alien. He goes with tentacles. Wow. Wow. Another good thing that I took away from all of this was the spaceship, the King's Gaze. In the previews that came out, I went, oh, what's that? This big female figure that's looks like a machine. No, turns out it's a being that's in the engine, the belly of the beast that's there. We see that Korra has a relationship with it. It's explained in part 2, so we didn't have to wait long for that. But this big being, you see it's there, and it's being fueled by biomass, skulls and bones of dead creatures, hinted to be human, which I thought interesting. Very interesting, having this and that kind of introduction to how this spaceship and more of the lore and how things are being run is being exposed. Ooh, very nice. Now, with that big creature that's in the engine room, I couldn't help but think about the Adeptus Mechanicus. Think Warhammer 40k. I looked at that and thought of the Skitarii a little bit, half human, half cyborg thing. That, and also the creature, the goddess who powers Autodale from Dead Sound. I'll put a link to that. I like that cartoonist's work. Seeing that come out, I went, this is what it looks like. But of course, different movie, different universe, but it heavily reminded me of those other sci-fi influences for this engine on the King's Gaze spaceship. Mm-hmm. Now, let's go to part 2. Part 2 was released same day, so it was easy to watch. The hacksaws. Hackshaws. I did not even notice them in the first run-through. The only time I took notice in this run-through of the Rebel Moon movies was when they were spying on the villagers in Vedek. They were there. I went, oh, what are you guys? What? Huh? I had to go back and rewatch the first one and go, oh, there you are. So they're another antagonist that works for the Imperium. But they didn't really make an impact to me until they had that little bit of showtime, and then they got wiped out by Jimmy. Those hackshaws just reminded me of the TV show Angel, the vampires there, and orcs. Not using anything new, but I went, oh, I can see where that came from. Yeah. Next on my list. Oh, the dinner on Velt. There are a few dinners on the farming planet of Velt. And one thing that I like it. I like this type of storytelling. Is when the heroes were at the dining table talking about their different experiences, their backstories, explaining what they do, really. For visual medium, it's a bit hard, but thank goodness we had it where each of them told a story, and it had the background, recalling what happened to them, so the audience better understands. It's not a good storytelling technique for movies, but other mediums it's great. Like, it reminded me of Hyperion by Dan Simmons, and of course he got the inspiration from, what is it, the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. That, how you got all these friends together telling their stories to help set up and go from there. Ooh, very nice. Oh dear. How do I say this? I've got my notes here, and I'm saying sci-fi reels like reality. If you like sci-fi like I do, it helps to have physics or some rules applied, even with magic. Of course, you've seen the action scenes. Physics is not, they don't apply. In The Hobbit, when the dwarves were with Gandalf escaping the goblins, physics did not apply. Physics do not apply to this either. When you're fighting on the big spaceship that's crashing, don't apply. Like, you would totally be dead. You would not survive that. Physics? What's that? I mean, we can ignore that for most sci-fi films and adaptations, but some of the things I went, come on. Like, in the engine room of the Kingsgate spaceship, would you really waste manpower shoveling biomass into the furnaces for the engine? No, that'd be automated. Why would you waste that? And you're already having trouble established in this film feeding everybody the manpower. Get rid of the men, upgrade them, or just add them to the fire and have robots doing that. It's already established they have robots. Whatever. Fine. What else? Oh gosh, this is what's funny. The spaceship, the King's Gaze starship that's floating. It's not even in low Earth orbit. It's hovering over it, and we've seen how massive that ship is. Does that mean that the engine being is that powerful to be able to do, crossing vast distances in space? It's able to do the communication across systems, and it's able to keep that massive, heavy, probably dense machine just hovering. You've had to break through the atmosphere of the place and just hover. And then when you need to get out of there, what is it? What's the exit velocity of Earth? I know that's 11 kilometers per second. Really damn fast. 33 times the speed of sound is how you are able to get that exit velocity to get out of Earth and possibly through the atmosphere and go into space. Is that what you're telling me, Zack Snyder? Is that what you're telling me? How that engine is that strong to be able to do all of that? That's why she's crying so much. Which kind of brings back to my next point, which is that being, she has a name. We didn't really know about it in the first film. Number 2, we have a name. The name is Rue Kali. Okay, there we go. I just went through the points, didn't I? Powers the ship, cross-system communication, and remember when they had to regenerate? General Noble? Regeneration or revival powers is what this creature being has. But also suggesting by her tears, she's captive. She's not free. She is a prisoner aboard this ship. So powerful being, and the little people keep her prisoner. Interesting. There's more than one of them. More than one Rue Kali. In the scene where the royal family is with the Peacemaker ship, they're gonna christen her. We know how that goes down. The king says, "Where's the Rue Kali? It's not on board." And they go, "Oh, hello there." So he's mentioning that another ship, there should be another Rue Kali. And then as Korra goes to kill the Rue Kali that's on the king's gaze, what does she say? She says, "My vengeance will be from my sisters, or my sisters will be my vengeance." That's what she says. And you go, there's more of them. There's more of those creatures. What are they? Where'd they come from? How do the humans capture such a powerful being and then just stick her in your spaceship? Seems, stupid. Seems weird. How could us little peanuts take over a massive being that's clearly much more powerful? Way more, she doesn't need to talk. She just talks telepathically to Korra. I don't know. Crazy. Will that get explained? We'll find out. Overall, yeah, go for the Snyder Cut. you get more explanation. Things are fleshed out more, so it doesn't seem so jarring going, how did that happen? What? Huh? Oh? A little bit better. I mean, it's things that you couldn't help. Like Charlie Huntsman's character, we saw the theatrical release. It was kind of funny to see it. Like, we know what's going to happen to him. It's no surprise. It lost that luster of excitement having this director's cut released after theatrical when we know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. Fine. One thing that did kind of intrigue me, this is maybe something for a philosopher to talk about, not little me, is James's character, Anthony Hopkins playing Jimmy. His name's Jimmy and James, nickname there. And it intrigues me because this is a sentient robot. His job is to protect and serve the king. And as the show goes on, you're finding out that the royal family, they're just human. They're just normal people. But then this robot was, they were meant to be programmed to worship the royal family, programmed to worship, protect, and do anything he can to protect the royal family. So as the film goes on, he comes out saying, I don't have a family to look after. And he seems to have this strange spiritual awakening for a robot. We're going into questions of, does that mean he's got a soul, or is this a result of his programming that's just overwiring and is trying to figure out, this is your programming. The programming is short-circuiting. How can I work around it? So I'm intrigued if anyone else has any ideas on that. Saying, is this a spiritual awakening, or just his programming being rewiring to keep his system going? Because that's what a robot, I wouldn't call him AI. That's what a sentient robot is meant to do, right? Right? So he probably didn't have a spiritual, here's my question. Did he have a spiritual awakening? Or was his programming going up, figure out, here's a circuit. Okay, here we go. Here's a circuit. Keep yourself going and keep surviving and keep doing what you're programmed to do. Which I guess this leads me on to my next point. We're seeing most of the story from Cora's point, and we're seeing the Imperium as a massive, bloody dictatorship. Before she was born, there was all this fighting, all this warring going on. And then as she's growing up, she's being thrown into battle, she's killing, she's being taught how to fight, kill, nah. But then you see the royal family, and they're supposed to be showing themselves as, we are holier than thou, we are royals, you and me peasants, we're here to look after you. But they're not. They're regular people. They're nothing magical. They're just a bunch of people, and the king is incompetent. Just think about it for a minute, right? He didn't know his generals were out slaughtering everybody. If you're the king, you're supposed to supervise that stuff, right? So General Belisarius, of course, king lays into him, great. But then the king makes him a senator. That's not an act of kindness. That's a weak coward saying, I don't know what to do, go over there and the problem will be... No. Weak, indecisive, cowardly king. And in part 2, doesn't he mention, he goes, I'll abdicate and give the throne to my child, which even Belisarius goes, what? 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 Giving the crown to a child because, she's magical? Okay, let's just suspend disbelief here. Okay, Issa. Sure. She has the magical powers. Great. Who was the other person who had magical powers? The other Princess Issa, which is from a myth, a legend. How long ago was that? 500? 1,000? 2,000 years ago? So no one in the royal line has had any magical powers. Just this little, you have it now. Yeah, how? We just called her Issa and that's what happened. No, the reason... So it's a hard thing to worship the royal family when all this chaos is happening around and we're going... We're supposed to be nice to you and think that you're magical people when you clearly don't know what you're doing. Yeah. No, thank you. I am old. Older than you think. And I'm of an age when you went to the movies, it was a treat. You go out, get the popcorn, spend all that money on the snacks. Get your ticket, go to the movie and watch it, beginning, middle, and end. Oh, lovely time. Go out for pizza, go out for dinner, or just go for a Macca's run afterwards. It used to be a treat. And then, of course, things would come along. This is, post-Star Wars now. But my age, it was Harry Potter, Twilight, Team Jacob! And, of course, the Marvel MCU. That was cool. That was totally new. Now it seems oversaturated because in these two films, there is a beginning, an absolutely chaotic middle, and then no end in sight. I go, where's this gonna go? We've got an ensemble cast. Questions, I have a lot of questions that I don't know if we're gonna answer all of them. There's just so much going on. I'm going, what? What? Will this end? Will it ever end? Or does it need to end? Maybe that's what the question that they're saying in the production company. Does it need to end? Nah, we'll keep it going forever. Like Star Wars. Star Wars. Oh my God. I'm intrigued. This is a new story for me. I like what's happening. The visual effects are great. Action scenes, once you get past the slow-mo and the farming, good. There's so much going on. I feel like the better medium for something like this, a story like this, would be a video game. Come on, think about it. The Witcher, that's pretty cool. Agent 47 and what? Dead Sound. Yeah. There's a market for that. There's people who watch gamers. I'm one of them. I will not play. I will watch people play the game. And of course, the gaming market is massive. For something like this, there's so much going on. I think it would be better suited for a video game. I'll provide an example here. When Cora is in the King's Gaze, in the engine room, she puts those explosives on top of the Rue Kali. Rue Kali, yes. When she puts the explosives on the Rue Kali, ooh, I'm getting a bit wet. Ooh, rain. No, I'll keep going. Explosives on the Rue Kali, she's there. And you got the fellas down below who are shoveling it in there. I want to point out, guys shoveling in sci-fi world doesn't make sense. Should be automated. In a video game, that's cool. You just got to sneak, hide, work around them. Totally cool. And it doesn't have to make sense because it's a video game. It's how it is. Down the shoveling. So she's there. She talks to the Rue Kali, takes her hands off, looks around, and there's a guard there. Ooh, what you gonna do, honey? What you gonna do? If you watch the movie, you know what's gonna happen. But in a video game, hey, she did that, looks around, couple options. She can either surrender, get him close, take him out stealthily, put him down, and run away to the next level of the game. She could, do as she did, which is shoot him, knock him off, alerting everyone below, so she has to have enough ammo, enough stamina to take care of all of them to move on to the next game. Or, of course, she could, could just run and have the guard chase her and then alert, and then there we go, everyone's onto it. I think that would be a good example, or I think that is a good example of, this might suit out a video game format better than a movie. Because there are plenty of good ideas. Like, you can tell how much I've talked about the Rue Kali. I'm intrigued about that storyline. I'm intrigued about Jimmy. And does he have a soul to have a spiritual awakening? Or is he just programmed and the programming figured it out and went, you know what, this is what we're going to do to continue on. And with video games, you can go on for a bit. There might not be an end in sight just yet, but having it in a film... What's gonna happen, man? What's gonna happen with this? So, Rebel Moon, part 1 and 2. I think it's worthwhile watching the director's cut. But when more comes out, I'm gonna go, please have an end in line. I don't want to waste time with... Where's the ending? There is none. So, Rebel Moon. It is a good time. Don't know if I'll watch it again. It's not a rewatchable one. It's a fun time for sure. But I probably won't revisit it until maybe another installment is added to the Rebel Moon collection. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Good night, everyone.